Columbia in New York announced its university-wide graduation would, in fact, be canceled after weeks of unrest. Now, despite the disruptions, the chaos, and the damage caused by these protests, well, Michael Moore, part of the radical wing of what is the, quote, new Democratic Party, he's calling on students around the country to ramp up the intensity. Listen.
And when I'm talking about nonviolence, I'm not talking about you do have the right to take over the administration building. I'll tell you, just speaking from Flint, we would have no UAW, no auto workers union if back in the 30s, the auto workers, including my uncle, had not taken over the factories. They broke windows. They locked all the doors. They kept all the police and the National Guard out for 44 straight days in the middle of winter. Yes, you have to take over buildings. That is not violence.
Oh, here with reaction, former 2024 presidential candidate Vivek Ramaswamy. Well, a lot of people on January 6th did nothing more than enter illegally, which they should not have done, the Capitol, and that was all that they did, and they're seeing long jail sentences. We never punished the people responsible for the 574 riots in the summer of 2020, Vivek. Your reaction to this call for insurrection, if you will. And where's Liz Cheney?
Look, there's clearly two standards. There's two standards of justice in this country, no doubt about it, Sean. But especially as it relates to these campus protests, there's a really important point to understand. This is not a tyranny of the majority, even among students. This is a tyranny of the fringe minority. And once we see that, we see an opportunity, actually, Sean. Most students do not agree with these protests. Look at many of these commencements where those protesters have been forcibly removed. You hear audiences erupting in cheering for the removal of those protesters. So I think this is actually an opportunity for Republicans this year. What we see is many young people who did not think of themselves necessarily as conservatives are now being converted into being patriotic, pro-American conservatives. So I actually think this is our opportunity if we as Republicans have the courage to actually show up where a lot of these young people are.
There's an even bigger question, and that is, where is Joe Biden and real moral clarity? I mean, because this was the worst terror attack in Israel's history. You know, what part of the murder of 1,200 Israelis, the kidnapping of hundreds of innocent people, the murder, the beheading, the rapes, all that we know that took place? And the president, we read, the administration won't comment on whether they have purposely delayed military aid to Israel because they didn't want what Israel is doing now, and that is for them to try and win the war against radical Islamic terrorism in Rafah. And they've been pressuring them from day one to show restraint in their war on terror. Where's Joe Biden in this? How does he, you know, what's the fallout for him in this?
Well, look, I think one of the philosophies for a long time in the American movement and the conservative movement has been peace through strength. But what does that mean in one way? It means just having a strong chief executive in the first place. And if you look at global instability across the board, we are now on the cusp of major conflict in multiple parts of the world. Guess what? We were in the same place when President Obama left office. Remember North Korea. So half of this is just having a commander-in-chief who actually has a spine, who actually is inspiring fear in foreign leaders around the world. And I think that that's something we're missing today. And the best foreign policy of all is to elect a new commander-in-chief. That's why we need Donald Trump in office. And I think a lot of foreign policy isn't just the overall machinations of what strategy we're pursuing where. It's having a strong enough chief executive that actually other leaders around the world have to take seriously. And the leader in the White House right now is absolutely somebody that no other leader around the world takes seriously today. That's our number one problem, Sean.
And, you know, scary times. And meanwhile, Donald Trump is sidelined, and Donald Trump is given a gag order, and Donald Trump is being threatened with jail. I don't think I ever imagined that our country would be descending this low at this time. We appreciate you being with us. Vivek Ramaswamy, thank you. Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.